Welcome to Alaska. Today is the Civil War video I said I was going to make. We're going to cover how, what, and when. We should all know the left is a bunch of big babies. And yes, there's even corrupt politicians. Yeah. When Donald Trump wins the 2024 election, there will probably be a very big political purge very soon. For examples, we have New York and New Jersey. Literally, golden bars from Egypt is in the hands of politicians in New Jersey. They don't want to go to jail for corruption and fraud. And the Democrats especially don't want to go to jail over political prostitution and trying to out a political opponent for no reason. Literally, the Democrats and the Republicans have too much to lose. Well, the Republicans in Washington, D.C. 90 to 99% of the politicians in Washington, D.C. are very much corrupt and are benefiting off of wars. They're even responsible for the 2008 bank crash. Let me say this. Would you like it if you could get rich off of a foreign war? Just get money from it? Like if there's a war going on somewhere, you get money from it? Would you like that? Guess what? Only the politicians and the Democrats get that benefit. They literally rather die than spend time behind bars. And if there's a chance that they could hold on to it by overthrowing the government when they are being put into justice, they would take the chance. They would most likely start a civil war. Hopefully it will never happen, but they most likely will try to anyway. As a final desperate grip onto power, they will try to start a civil war, which will probably create the Third World War, but that's already being handled in the Middle East. We'll probably be in the Third World War when we fall into a civil war. They even know that they're trying to get a decrepit old man into position of president. More of keep him there. We know his name, Biden. Yes. Let's go, Brandon. So, yeah. When they fail to keep Biden in power, the Democrats and DC Republicans will say Trump is the illegit president of the United States. He must be brought down with any force necessary. 6 months later, you'll see missiles go across the skies, hitting targets and stuff. There's a YouTuber called The World According to Briggs, which has a small little video explaining, I think, 8 reasons why the U.S. will not fall into a civil war. I think it's 8, but it could be more or less. In the video, he did say the economic impact will be too great to handle, but I'm pretty sure the Democrats and the DC Republicans don't care. They're already trying to do that, so just speed it up for a civil war. Why not? You might also say the medical industry will lag behind for many years, and I'll just say, well, they already were corrupt. Especially Big Pharma, that is kind of in hot water when people, yeah, especially people are questioning why they have to take the corona vaccine during 2020. Why? Like, why are we forced to take this vaccine? Why? Why is it mandatory? Why? And now they're questioning Big Pharma. So Big Pharma, yeah. And plus, the corruption of Big Pharma goes very deep. I mean, really deep. Several years. Do you know the first guy who was kicked out of the medical industry for having questions? 80 60, 70, 40, 30 years ago. Well, he's not that old, so I'm thinking more 30 to 20 to 40 years ago. Maybe 50. That guy did his own research why a big particular vaccine that's still around today was giving kids autism. He found some pretty big evidence and showed it to the counseling court thing. I don't know. They did their own research, and what they found was equal to his research, and then they just tore up both of them or altered both of them, and then showed the altered version to the public. They've even said, what you found was remarkable, but we can't have it. Don't quote me on that. It's something, I'm saying what they basically said, but it's not the precise words. And said that HMR vaccine was safe. Yep, that's the name of the vaccine, actually. HMR vaccine. And is it strange that Big Pharma is not responsible if their vaccine goes wrong or something like that? Strange, isn't it? But the man himself has better evidence, could throw out better evidence than I did. So yeah, screw Big Pharma. Crime will be sky high. Well, yeah, it kind of will be, and there's nothing preventing it. Oh well. I'm pretty sure in time the police will figure out a way and a solution to stop crime some point in the Civil War. But it won't be at the beginning of it. That'd be high crime all round. The Civil War will probably be more of district to district than state to state. Californian could say that they're leaving the Union on paper, but honestly, there'll just be uprisings in California itself. California will have to conquer all of California before they could officially announce they're leaving the Union during said Civil War, which will probably be state suicide. And California will be more of a territory for a while. And will be stripped of statehood for a little bit, but it will come back as a state. I'm not saying the Republicans itself, the Republican citizens will quit uprising. No, I'm just saying the Democrats and the DC Republicans will do the uprising when Trump wins the election. Just to make that clear. So yes. It takes, just to let you guys know, it takes at least about 6 months to prepare for a war or prepare for something huge like a civil war. So if it's kind of out of nowhere, there will be a 6-month grace period for both sides because both sides are preparing. Since the Civil War is going to be more of district by district, so every state is going to have a front line. Maybe for the exceptions of Wyoming and West Virginia, it might not have a front line. Alaska probably would have a front line, but that's more of probably with Anchorage or Juneau and cities like that. As well as Hawaii will have a front line with the Oahu wildfire that burned down a whole city or something. It will create especially that the whole state was betrayed by the Democratic Party. They will probably not. Those people probably will fight against them. So yes, if the U.S. government can secure Washington D.C., then the D.C. will continue being the capital of the U.S. However, the fascists and communist liberals will have to have a new capital. I think Los Angeles will be their capital. Thinking about it, Vermont might not have a front line. Same thing with Massachusetts. But just throwing that out. New York would be a bad choice. It would get encircled really quick. Delaware is a pretty bad choice. It's a fairly small state. You wouldn't want to be there. Any city in Pennsylvania would be a bad choice. It would get encircled or captured pretty early on. And that's counting when the violence starts. It wouldn't probably be in Maine, as if it was in Maine, it would be in the 1st district, but it wouldn't be there because of the 2nd district, which is a lot more Republican than the 1st district. That's part of the reason why Maine is the most Republican New England state. Boston will probably get encircled on pretty early on. Since New England is kind of close to the U.S. Capitol, New England probably would be one of the first areas to completely be recaptured by the U.S. Hawaii would have been the best option if there was loyal people, but there is not. New Mexico would have been a bad choice because New Mexico is not very populated and it'll be easily been captured pretty early on, which will encircle Colorado and starve Colorado. Come on now, the elites want to be in luxury as the Civil War goes on. If their capital gets starved, they've starved too. And plus, Colorado will be conquered pretty early on. Oregon would have been a bad choice. It does not have a secure enough area. It would have been captured pretty early on as well. In the plus side, if Oregon and California, with their 2 governors, say we're leaving the Union and virtually commit state suicide, state of Jefferson gets to become a state. Yeah, the state of Jefferson, which in between Oregon and California. California would be the best option with Los Angeles. It would completely be encircled by blue, and it will actually take a while. If the Hawaiian rebels were stopped, they could plausibly relocate the capital to Hawaii in as a last-ditch effort to prevent the capital being captured, which will prolong the Civil War, and make it completely naval after a certain point. And I think about quarter of the Marine Corps will go to the liberals or the fascist communist dictators of the Democrats and DC Republicans. A quarter of the army will go to the Democrats and DC Republicans, aka the left. The Navy will probably just be split up, roughly half, but leaning more towards a left majority. Would go to the left, aka the DC Republicans and the Democrats. The DC Republicans and the Democrats will get 3/4 of the Coast Guard, and the true huge majority of the Space Force will go to the left, with only less than a quarter, 1/8 will go to the Republicans when it comes down to the Space Force. We'll probably fully capture Alaska pretty early on, chasing off the left out of Alaska. However, the left will need to recapture Alaska more than just hold on to Anchorage and Juneau but capture all of Alaska instead to get the oil and the gold and other stuff to fund the war machine, or what they have of a war machine. So Alaska would be a high prioritized target. Just so guess who doesn't run out of supplies? The left. Part of the reason why Seattle is going to be a high value target. If we could conquer Washington, we can help Alaska not get captured and have a much larger naval presence there. From there, we just force the Democrats to go, or the Democrats and the Washington DC Republicans just to go southwest as we capture and what they just have as coast. Hopefully we get control of Hawaii, so we could also host beach invasions as well as other invasions, beach invasions, and charge for the lands and stuff to create a huge coordinated attack which will capture Los Angeles. Nevada and Arizona will be battleground states, quite literally would be battleground states. So, yes. And for the states that announced that they're leaving the Union, it does mean state suicide, and they will most likely be brought down to the original territories or a new territory, which from there they will not be allowed to vote in any election, and their delegates will no longer exist. From there, their disappearance will impact elections, but eventually they'll be re-added or split off to even be more states. They'll also give the state of Jefferson the legal obligations and the legal capabilities to become a state, which will shrink Oregon and California by a little margin. It would also become the most Republican state in the West Coast, by the way. It'll be a small state that borders Nevada, Oregon, and California. However, not every state will commit state suicide in this. It'll probably have to be done through announcement of the governor when they do split off from the union, quote unquote, and announce it. For example, we could have Vermont. Vermont is the most liberal state, but in theory they could never announce state separation. So in legal aspects, they've never committed state suicide. I do know that states in the US cannot leave the US because of the Constitution and the new amendment that was made once the first Civil War ended. It'd be a temporary thing, and it's gonna be a temporary thing. I think their territories will be called deserter territories, like Oregon Deserter Territory, something like that. And yeah, there's a lot of things I'll have to double check. Well, this is the end of this video, and I wish you guys a really good day, and pray that we don't go into civil war. Literally, pray. Hopefully we don't. God bless America.